Imagine being a lawyer, waking up one morning to a case that everyone says is impossible. A case so twisted, so hopeless, that even your colleagues shake their heads and say, "Don't waste your time." But what if you knew, deep in your heart, that your client was innocent? Would you fight? Would you risk your reputation, your career, maybe even your sanity to prove the truth? This is the story of one man who did exactly that. Meet Daniel Carter. Not the richest lawyer in the city, not the flashiest, but one of the hardest working you could ever find. Daniel wasn't the kind of man who chased fame or big money cases. He took on people's battles because he believed in something that many of his peers had long forgotten: justice. One rainy Monday morning, his phone rang. A trembling voice on the other end introduced itself as the sister of a man named Michael Hayes. Michael had just been charged with armed robbery and assault, a crime that carried decades in prison. Daniel almost refused. The evidence was overwhelming: surveillance footage, eyewitnesses, fingerprints. It looked like an open and shut case. But something in the sister's desperate voice, and later in Michael's eyes when Daniel met him, told him there was more here than anyone wanted to see. From the very start, Daniel was mocked for even trying. Other attorneys laughed. Prosecutors smirked. Even some of the judge's remarks dripped with doubt. Carter, one senior lawyer, told him, "Don't waste your time. The jury will have a verdict before you even finish your opening statement." But Daniel wasn't deterred. He poured every waking moment into the case. Night after night, his office light glowed long past midnight. His desk was buried in files, police reports, transcripts. The deeper he dug, the more inconsistencies he found. The fingerprints? They were partial, smudged, almost impossible to read, yet the prosecution treated them like a smoking gun. The surveillance footage? Blurry, grainy, filmed in poor lighting. The eyewitnesses? Each one gave a slightly different version of what they saw. The case wasn't as airtight as it first appeared, but could he prove it? The trial was packed. Journalists filled every seat. The story was already written in their minds. Local man convicted. Another win for justice. The prosecution went first, laying out their evidence with confidence. The jury nodded along. The witnesses spoke clearly. The surveillance video played on a giant screen. Daniel sat quietly, listening, taking notes, his heart pounding. He knew this was the battle of his life. When his turn finally came, he stood, buttoned his worn suit jacket, and addressed the jury. His voice shook at first, but he steadied himself. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, "what you've just seen is not proof. It's a puzzle. And once we put the pieces together, you'll see the picture doesn't match the story you've been told. At first, things didn't go well." A star witness swore under oath that Michael was at the scene. The jury seemed convinced. Reporters scribbled notes, already preparing headlines. Daniel felt the weight of failure pressing on him. In the quiet of his office that night, he stared at the wall, exhausted. Maybe they were right. Maybe this really was unwinnable. But then he noticed something, a detail he had almost overlooked. In the blurry surveillance footage, the suspect's jacket had a logo stitched on the sleeve. Daniel zoomed in. It wasn't Michael's jacket at all. Back in court, Daniel presented this discovery. He asked the detective why such a detail had been ignored. The detective stammered, fumbling through excuses. Then came the real breakthrough. Daniel tracked down a man who had bought that exact same jacket, a man with a criminal record who matched the suspect's build. When he took the stand, the courtroom shifted. For the first time, doubt crept into the jury's faces. Daniel pressed further, exposing contradictions in witness testimony, pointing out sloppy police work, and revealing how rushed the investigation had been. Piece by piece, the prosecution's perfect case began to crumble. In his closing statement, Daniel's voice thundered with conviction. "Justice," he said, looking each juror in the eye, "is not about convenience. It's not about assumptions. It's about truth. My client is not the man in that video. He is not guilty of the crime he's been accused of. And if you convict him based on shaky evidence, then we all lose. Because today it's him. Tomorrow, it could be any one of us. The courtroom was silent. The jury left to deliberate. Minutes stretched into hours. Hours felt like days. Finally, the jury returned. The foreman stood, holding the slip of paper that would decide Michael's fate. The judge asked for the verdict. Not guilty. Gasps filled the room. Michael's sister burst into tears. Michael himself sat frozen, his life given back to him in an instant. Daniel closed his eyes, relief washing over him. He had done it. Against all odds, he had won. That night, as the city lights flickered outside his window, Daniel thought about the case. He knew he hadn't just defended a man. He had defended the very idea that the truth matters, even when nobody wants to see it. And for him, that was worth more than any paycheck, any applause, or any headline.